On March 18, 2013, the Albanian government accepted 210 refugees who had for years been living in Iraq. 210 men and women, all divorced, non-Iraqi, with no children with them. They were all, however, connected to each other through an organization known as the MEK. The MEK was founded by 3 Iranian university students on the 6th of September 1965. Being influenced by leftist ideologies, the only solution to the emancipation of the Iranian masses, they argued, was armed struggle. 4 years later, the leaderships of MEK felt the group was ready to fight. Some of the members were sent to the Palestinian refugee camps in Jordan and Lebanon to receive military training. But before they were able to begin an armed assault, the Iranian intelligence service, known as the SAVAK, were tipped off to their plans. And in the spring of 1972, all the core members of the group, except one, were executed. Masoud Rajavi had his life spared in light of cooperating with the SAVAK. Instead, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Rajavi was a skilled and compelling orator. This ability allowed him to gain a number of followers in prison. When Rajavi and his comrades were in prison, other members of the MEK killed several American officers through a number of terrorist attacks and officially declared themselves as a communist organization. The resulting international outcry in response to the attacks caused its members to be either detained, killed, or forced into hiding. This left the group to remain in name only. On February 11, 1979, the Iranian Revolution was successful in ousting the Shah's regime. A month earlier, Rajavi and several other political prisoners were released from jail. Rajavi saw the newly successful revolution as an opportunity to achieve power. But this idea could only be realized through resurrecting the MEK. Consequently, the MEK's governing council was established with Rajavi as its head. But the group needed to prove their revolutionary credentials so as to attract more members. Hence, they took ownership of the terrorist acts that were carried out, but they rejected those who claimed to be communists as members of the organization. Using the chaos of the early days of the revolution, the group occupied various properties, and through that acquired significant funds. They were also successful in seizing a sizable number of arms from the army and police buildings, all in the name of defending the budding revolution.
Pensez-vous que la lutte armée sera nécessaire pour obtenir cette victoire?
Ce que je sais pour avoir étudié l'histoire, c'est qu'il n'y a pas d'exemple où l'impérialisme ait quitté un pays sans avoir eu à affronter une lutte armée. Mais bien sûr, nous souhaitons que l'impérialisme quitte l'Iran sans que nous ayons besoin de recourir à cette lutte armée.
The members of the MEK believed that they were pioneers of the revolution in Iran, and that Rajavi's leadership gave their organization new life. New members of the organization viewed Rajavi as the sole remnant of the first generation of its leaders. Older members viewed him as the savior of the MEK. All viewed him as a leader who would guarantee their victory in the upcoming elections. But in the elections for the Council of Constitutional Experts and the Parliament, the organization as a whole met with bitter political defeats. Worst of all, Rajavi himself was not able to gain enough votes to win a seat. Rajavi now had to find another way to gain power in Iran. The president of Iran at the time was at odds with the Republican Party, the same group that dealt Rajavi an electoral defeat. This common political foe drew the two individuals closer together. This new political alliance did not bear any fruit, as the parliament soon voted to impeach the president, crushing Rajavi's hopes for power yet again. Rajavi chose a different strategy to deal with his political opponents. A week later, an explosion destroyed the Republican Party headquarters. 70 of its members, along with the party leader, were killed, removing this party from the political landscape. Contrary to Rajavi's calculations, the attack led to great sympathy for the deceased. A month after the attack, Rajavi fled the country in secret and gave the order to assassinate political leaders in Iran. He assumed armed struggle to be the only way to achieve power. On August 30th, 1981, the Prime Minister and President of Iran were killed by a bomb placed in their office. The attack did not yield the result Rajavi was looking for, and only made his organization more hated. Rajavi now tried a more drastic strategy. He ordered the killing of all pro-government civilians. No exceptions were made. As a result of the organization's armed struggle, its members were pursued and arrested. Seeing his organization facing extinction, Rajavi ordered its members to flee Iran for Iraq, and this while the war between Saddam and Iran was ongoing. Henceforth, Iraq became a safe haven for the organization. Toppling Iran's government was the common goal for Saddam and Rajavi.
نمیتونم و نباید در اینجا چرا اینکه مطلوب دشمنی و براش اعمال فشار میکنه سکوت یا بی‌طرفی پیشه بکنم. اعلان جنگ به دشمن ندم. فرمان تسلیح ندم و چنانکه میگویند و میخواهند بی‌طرفی اتخاذ کنم. نه، این شایسته ما نیست.
This common goal resulted in 7,000 men and women from the MEK to serve in Saddam's army. Among their tasks was to function as spies and interrogate Iranian POWs. In Iraq, with the excuse of wartime conditions, Rajavi instituted a new set of rules for the organization. He banned the use of telephones, newspapers, television, and radio for all members. As a result, members of the organization were cut off from all forms of outside communication and only received information Rajavi had tailored for them. In late 1984, news of Rajavi's affair with the wife of one of his associates became a problematic issue for the organization. On February 28, 1985, Rajavi ordered his associate to divorce his wife Maryam so that he could marry her himself. His command went unopposed by the associate who claimed opposing Rajavi's path is worse than opposing the path of God. Rajavi called his marriage to Maryam an ideological revolution, and the couple together became the leadership for the organization. Around this time, Saddam had constructed a barracks for the organization which would serve as its headquarters. With funding and supplies from Saddam's Ba'athist government, Rajavi began organizing his own army. The ceasefire between Iran and Iraq after 8 years of war resulted in another defeat for Rajavi in his quest for power. Rajavi then decided to make use of his private army to attack Iran. He had convinced members of the MEK that the people of Iran were awaiting their arrival and they would reach Tehran within 48 hours. On Monday, July 25, 1988, Rajavi ordered his troops to commence the attack. Contrary to his claims, the Iranian people did not embrace his army's arrival. After 3 days, and the loss of 3,000 of its soldiers, his army retreated back to Iraq. This defeat caused members in the organization to doubt the Rajavi's leadership. To absolve himself from responsibility, he announced that the reason for the organization's defeat was due to sexual deviation within the ranks of his army. He instituted a new law for MEK members. All married couples were to divorce. Maryam Rajavi, in supporting him, said that the hearts of the organization's members must only be dedicated to the leadership of the organization.
بلاد فردی هرچی هستی باش. راست میگی ببین. بیا هرچی میتونی به رهبریت وصل بشو. اون رو ذوب بشو. یعنی در واقع از این کانال اونطور خود فرد و فردیت رو تا اونجایی که امکان پذیر اتو کن و لوردش کن. این راه رهایی از قید و بندهای فردیه.
The presence of children in the camp made this new law hard to enforce. America's attack on Iraq and the start of the Persian Gulf War provided Rajavi a solution. Under the pretext of protecting them from the dangers of war, the children were sent to camps in Germany and the Netherlands. Rajavi calculated that this would prevent the organization's members from getting distracted in carrying out the goals he and his wife had set for them.
اینکه من آدم خوبی باشم به تنهایی دینامیزم کافی برای حل مشکل فرد نیست. تو باید این مشکل تو حل کنی نه به دلیل اینکه آدم خوبی باشی. به این دلیل که ببین بتونی بار بیشتری برداری از این مقاومت، از این سازمان، از این ارتش آزادی بخش و از این رهبریش.
The Kurdish and Shia resistance to Saddam coincided with the attack by the American coalition. Rajavi, seeing the pressure on his ally Saddam mounting, sprung into action and ordered attacks to be carried out against the Kurds. Maryam Rajavi commanded the operation.
Attack! Attack!
This joint operation by the MEK and Saddam's army was successful and resulted in the killing of hundreds of thousands of people, much to the delight of Saddam.
براجم اليمنين ده ومجاهدي-e-Khalgh شان لقلايا مدفعي شو قال زور راجمين فيه ابو البوان اليمنين ده على جنو منار الجنو تشزو زورين كشتوا.
The killing of their Iraqi hosts did not sit well with a number of the organization's members. To quell the skepticism, Rajavi instituted a new law. self-criticism. Members were required to announce their most intimate thoughts in front of others. Months later, Mariam unveiled the next plan of the organization. High-ranking female members of the MEK were taken to her husband so they could achieve what she called oneness with him.
سال 79 من دیدم که خانم رجوی منو صدا زد، مریم رجوی، و گفت که امشب شب زفاف توه و شب معراج توه، تو قدرشناس قیمتی باش که مسئول برات داره. بعد من راهنمایی که به طرف اتاق خواب مسعود و من رفتم تو. وقتی که رفتم داخل این چیز رفتم اصلا در قفل میشد. یعنی عجیب بود که چه ساختمون چجوری طراحی شده، یعنی دیگه امکانی که بخوای از اون محل خارج بشی نبود.
In addition to this, Rajavi had all of the males removed from the organization's leadership council and established a new, female-only one in its place. Mariam Rajavi was placed at the head of this council. Opponents to this move were labeled as gender-biased and suppressed. In what was known as the security check, the opponents to this move were accused of spying for Iran, were tortured and sent to Abu Ghraib prison. Some of them did not survive.
انتخاب ما الزام آوره، یعنی میتونیم اون رو ابلاغ و نوعی دستور با عرض معذرت تفسیر کنیم. انتخابی هم که کردیم همین. آیا شما مجاز هستید از دید خودتون به لحاظ ایدئولوژیک، از دید خودتون و به لحاظ سیاسی تاریخی از دید همه ما، دید مشترک همه ما، آیا مجاز هستید بگویید نه؟
Rajavi assumed that the people in Iran were under pressure and could not choose their own president. And so he chose his wife Mariam to be Iran's president and gave her the title the Shining Sun.
بگذارید به منظور تایید مؤکد مصوبه شورا ابتدا از شما سوال بکنم. نظر شما با ریاست جمهوری مریم چیست؟ موافقید؟
But the widespread participation of the Iranian public in the subsequent presidential elections contradicted Rajavi's analysis of the situation in the country. To generate morale for his followers, he ordered terrorist attacks in Iran. The MEK launched several mortars indiscriminately that were met with international condemnation, putting the group under pressure. In 2003, on the verge of America's invasion of Iraq, in fear that his followers would take advantage of this opportunity to desert him, Rajavi announced that if they tried to escape, they would be killed by Iranian authorities. To further assure himself, he ordered his followers to destroy all personal belongings and eliminate any connections to their previous lives. With the American invasion of Iraq, Masoud and Mariam Rajavi fled from Iraq and found refuge in Europe. They ordered the remaining leadership of the MEK to open negotiations with the Americans and to ensure the Americans that they would cooperate. The MEK was considered a terrorist organization by the American government due to the attacks they had previously carried out. Rajavi's promises to combat the Iranian government and his lobbying certain American officials won the group the ability to remain in Iraq on the condition that they would disarm. On January 17, 2003, Mariam Rajavi and a number of members of her female entourage were arrested by French police for attempting to murder 25 ex-members of the organization. In order to avoid conviction in French courts, Mariam ordered members of the organization to burn themselves alive in front of police stations and public locations in France. The move put pressure on the French government, and as a result, Mariam was released. In the following years, the members of the organization that had remained in Iraq faced a big problem. The people of Iraq no longer wanted them in the country. America and European countries would not accept them either. Hence, America and the EU removed the MEK from the list of terrorist organizations in order to ease the relocation of its members as asylum-seeking refugees. Masoud Rajavi handed the leadership of the organization to Mariam and thereafter disappeared from the public eye. Now, the question is, which country is prepared to accept the MEK? On March 18, 2013, the Albanian government accepted 210 refugees who had lived in Iraq for years. 210 men and women who were non-Iraqi and were all transferred from a camp in Baghdad to Albania.
After steady progress over a period of months, I visited Tirana earlier this year, and I discussed with the Albanian government how to assist in facilitating the transfer and the resettlement of the last group of MEK members from Camp Liberty.
In 2016, the American government was able to convince the government of Albania to accept the remaining members of the MEK. Tirana became the new camp for members of the MEK, a camp in the heart of Europe. The inhabitants of this camp, based on the orders of Mariam, have laid down their weapons. Proud of their past, they are patiently waiting for their next mission.